Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, it is May 18th, 2022, and this is episode 219. My name is Carol, my Ravelry name is Knits and Pearls, and I am coming to you from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, not too far from Vancouver. I hope you are all well and that you've had a good couple of weeks since we last spoke. I don't know about you, but those 2 weeks have just flown by for me. I cannot believe that we are already past mid-month and that the end of May is coming up in an awful hurry. The truth is that right now I really should be cleaning house. We are heading up to the cabin tomorrow night, and we are bringing one of my sisters and her husband back with us. They're going to stay with us for a couple of days before they go back to Toronto where they live. But well, for one thing, this is a lot more fun than scrubbing toilets. For another, if I didn't record this week, I wouldn't be able to again for another couple of weeks, and I really didn't want a whole month to go by between episodes. As it is, I already feel like we have lots to catch up on. I've got almost 2 pages worth of podcast notes. So those of you who've been watching for a while will be familiar with this background. This is one of our downstairs spare rooms, and it's the best place to record in the morning. I am getting a jump on things, and I'm gonna hopefully get this episode out by the time we head to ball this evening. Truth be told, I hope we get rained out because I could use the extra time. We woke up to pouring rain. We're supposed to get more rain today. It's really windy, blustery out there, overcast. Occasionally you might see the sun break through here. But yeah, I'm hoping for a rain out because I have a lot to do between now and tomorrow when Cameron gets off work and we head up to the cabin. But I'm going to try and move through this as quickly as possible without talking a million miles an hour, hopefully. So I'm perched on the end of the bed here and have things all around me. And the tripod today is stacked on top of several totes of Barbie things. This is where we keep all the toys for the grandkids. Okay, I just want to remind you that because I won't record again until June, does that ever seem strange to say? I just want to remind you that the Year of the Stash is taking place in the Ravelry group for this podcast. And by the time we meet again, it will be time to draw some more prizes. So make sure if you are working on your personal sock yarn club socks for, I guess it would be April, be sure to get them in by May 31st in the FO thread. And yeah, just go ahead and take part in all the various threads that are happening there. I have finished my socks for May's personal sock yarn club. We went up to the cabin last weekend too. I've had lots of knitting time, and well, not lots of knitting time, but lots of car knitting time. And so here they are. These are the Galaxy Cocktail Socks. That's what I'm calling them. They are knit from Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bedazzled in the Galaxy Cocktail colorway. And then I had a mini skein. This is in the bounce base, so it doesn't have the sparkle, but it was a very good match for the socks. So I decided to do the heels in that so I wouldn't disrupt the striping pattern down the leg. So my usual 64 stitch sock on a 2mm needle, top down, and then this I did a traditional heel flap and gusset. And as you can see, I began it where the turquoise started. It actually worked out perfectly because I like on a sock where I do a heel flap and gusset, I like my cuff to be 7 inches when I start, and it worked out perfectly. And I like how I got 3 stripes of the blue and purple on here. So yeah, this I mean, not much, a whole lot more to say about these, other than I knit these for, as I said, May's Personal Sock Yarn Club, and I also knit them for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Mel, which is the Make It Your Own Make Along. My theme that I've chosen is the 4 seasons, and so I related these by saying a galaxy cocktail is a drink you'd like to have on a hot summer's day. And so that's my first finished project for that make along. Trying to debate whether to take you to, yeah, I think I'll take you to my weaving next, because my weaving project is also something I am doing for the Mel. Well, and it fits into the Year of the Stash too, because the yarns I am using in them are from Stash. Last week I gave you a glimpse of what I was planning, and now I've filmed a little segment that will show you how I've progressed since then. So I'll meet you back here on the other side. All right, so it's time for an update on my latest weaving project. When last we spoke, I had the 24 mini skeins from Fiber Nymph Dye Works Winter Magical Holiday Countdown collection from last year laid out on my coffee table in order of day. And then one day last week, I started playing with them, and I divided them into color families, and then I played with them some more, and I came up with a final order in which I wanted to warp them onto my loom. So why don't I give you a look at that. So if you can see the bottom right, I started with blues, worked my way up to kind of pinks and purples, went into reds and greens, continued with red, which faded into kind of browns and golds, which faded into kind of green and gold. And then I ended with these 4 skeins, which weren't exactly, they didn't fit exactly into a color family, but they shared some characteristics in their colors. For instance, this peachy color is also found in here, so they kind of blended together. And I ended with a skein that had some blue in it so that it would transition nicely into skein number 1. Because what I ended up doing is taking 2 strands from each of these mini skeins, and I warped them onto the loom in this order. And then I started again. Once I had warped 2 strands of this one, I started again and warped 2 strands of this one, 2 strands of this one, etc. So I ended up with 3 sets of this striping sequence across the warp for a total of 144 ends. So why don't I take you over to the loom and I'll show you how that looks. I was not prepared for just how beautiful it would look all warped up. So you can see, started with the blue here, worked over to the pinks and purples and the greens and reds and golds, and then started here again. So you can see that, that striping repeat. Something else I did, ended up being very picky about how I warped this. I discovered that if I folded the yarn in half at a certain point on each skein, the colors would line up along the length. And so I found that central point, and I started with it at the warping peg and then brought it forward to the loom so that the colors would line up. So for instance, you can see that this blue strand, I mean, it's not exact because of tension, but I've got the darker part here, and then as I go down the loom, the lighter parts of that one line up. And so I just wanted there to be a really strong concentration of the color, since I was only using 2 ends of each colorway at a time. So like for instance, you can see this one, it goes light, and then it fades into kind of a lavender, and then it goes back into this turquoisey color. And so that is consistent across the loom. Some of the colorways don't have a lot of variation, but others have quite a bit. So in various parts of the weaving, for instance, like this bright green has this peachy part in the middle and a blue part here, and then this lime green in this section, whoops, in this section. And so those same sections will show up across the loom. You can see the green here and here. And that way it just provided some consistency across the warp, since there's so much inconsistency going on. I didn't want it to look like a hot mess when it was all done. And then, as I talked about last week, I was going to try and weave it up with this skein of Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bedazzled, which is called Don't Tell Him It's a Rainbow. And it's a 6-stripe colorway. It has dark blue, dark green, gold, kind of a taupey color, red, and a light purple color. And so I thought that would give some consistency for the weft, and I thought if everything worked as planned, it would weave up like a kind of plaid. And I'm happy to say that it's working. So I'm going to take you down here to where I've done some weaving. So you can obviously see where the red stripe is, and next to that is a like a light purpley color, goes into the blue and the green and the gold. And so as you can see the different warp colors going vertically, and you can see those color families that stand out, especially like you can see these blues, for instance. And then you can see those stripes that run across. And so I'm definitely getting the effect I want. Unfortunately, it is dark and gloomy out this morning. There's not much light on here, but oh my goodness, when the sunlight hits it, this is gorgeous. It picks up the glitter in the yarn and it just brightens up the colors. It's amazing. So I'm just going to step back a little bit. I'll move this skein out of the way, and that'll just give you an overall view of the project in progress. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I don't know what I would have done if it hadn't, but yeah, it's just such a pleasure to work on, and I wish I had a chance to do more this week, because I'm really anxious to see how it's all gonna come out. So I think that's all I have to say about this. I'll send you back to the rest of the episode. If you can't tell, I am really excited about that weaving project. And then that leads us nicely into my up and coming, which is that I am going to take some of the leftovers from my weaving project, and I am going to knit a pair of scrappy socks. So I think that was the 3rd year that I got a Advent or holiday mini set from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. And the 2 prior years, I used parts of them to knit myself some scrappy socks, starting with day 1 and working my way up, because I do them toe up, to day 24. So this morning I weighed all of the little skeins, made note of what went into the warp, and now I am going to put them all back into their little envelopes, and I am going to knit a pair of scrappy socks, and I'm going to do them 2 at a time on separate needles, so concurrently. So I'm hoping to cast on later today so that I have them ready for the car tomorrow night. Might have to wait till tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But that will be a project, obviously, for the Year of the Stash, and then I can also use that for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Mio Mel also, because of course it's the winter magical collection, fits into my theme of the 4 seasons. So I'm excited to get going on those and just see how the yarns knit up individually. I had originally started knitting a cowl with the first couple of colorways, and then I changed my mind last holiday season, last December. So I'm kind of excited to sort of have the chance to play with them again, knitting wise. And then I'm not sure how much I'll have left over, but no doubt I'll have some other kind of scrappy thing I can do with them. We'll see. There's about, they all weighed about 9 grams to start. They're supposed to be 10-gram minis, but I also realized that depending on how much moisture they're holding, yarns can weigh a little bit heavier or lighter at different times. So almost all of them weighed 9 grams, and I used 3 grams for almost all of them for the warp. Now you think, okay, how can you, if you did the same number of warp threads, how can that be different? And I think it's just sometimes one skein might weigh a little bit heavier, but then when you take the grams away, it's not like 3.4 grams or 3.5 grams, it's only broken into grams. So on average, they took 3 grams to warp the loom of each color, and then that leaves me about 6 grams of each color to play around with. So getting lots of mileage out of them. Okay, so I have some sewing and some quilting to show you. I am excited to tell you that I finished the, what was it called? It was called the Emma quilt. It is from the book 3 Times the Charm. I made this for my new great nephew out of some fabric from Riley Blake called Eat Your Veggies, and I got that at Connecting Threads. So yes, it is all done. Last week, or last couple weeks ago, I guess, I showed you that I had sewn the whole top together, and I had sandwiched it with the quilt batting and the backing fabric, which is also this plaid, and I had started pinning it. I had pinned it all around the edge. And I was talking about what I might do as far as the quilting part went. And I heard from one of our viewers and one of my knitting friends, and she offered me a suggestion of how I could quilt this. She said she often does the wavy stitch on quilts, that it holds up really well. She's done a lot of kids' quilts and they hold up really well, and it's an easy one to do. And then so that's what I ended up doing. And Kathy, I have to say, it turned out so well. Thank you so much for that suggestion. It was very easy to do, and it fit in really well with kind of the wavy lines of the plaid. Because I had all of these lines already that I could follow, it was easy to do. Well, there's my phone. I'm just going to let that ring for now. So what I end up doing is going across the quilt the whole width, lining up with these seams, and then I went vertically along these seams. And then, yeah, I did one in this border here and one in this border here. So I'm going to bring that a little bit closer. I hope you can see. The sun's coming in now. There, I think you can see those wavy stitches. Very forgiving. I think that's another great thing about the wavy stitches. If you're, not quite straight, it's not immediately obvious. And then I went ahead and I did the binding with this orange fabric. And I decided, on my own quilts, like the one you see behind me, I hand stitched the binding. This one, it's for a kid's quilt, and I was looking for speed and durability, so I went ahead and just top stitched the binding. So I attached it to the back, flipped it over, clipped it into place, and then just stitched along there. And you know what? It's not perfect, but it's good enough. So I know that it's difficult to see. Let me see if I can scooch back on the bed. I have no idea how much you were able to see, but I will put a photo in right here so that you can see the quilt in its entirety. I am super pleased with how this turned out. So this particular great nephew lives back east in Ottawa, but my sister and her husband are planning a trip for early June, and so they'll take this back with them. So yeah, I'm really happy to finish that off. And then I did, just I want to lay this out. Hang on. I want to keep it nice and flat while I can. So I also did some sewing of some project bags. Maybe I'll talk, I'll show them to you and then I'll talk about acquisitions. Long story short, I got some new fabrics and I can't show all of them to you right now, but I started doing some project bags out of a fat quarter bundle. So I did finish 4 of them yesterday, but I'm gonna keep those secret for now. But I thought I would show you a sampling of some of the other fabrics. So these are all set to go. This is the lining. This is the bottom and that's the top. I ran out of the off-white, so I have to pick some more up to do pockets and ties. But there's one combination. There's another. Another, I love this plaid one. And then I put the plaid with this dark floral. So these will be prizes for upcoming make-alongs. What was I gonna say now? Oh shoot, something about the fabrics. It was a little bundle of 6 fat quarters and I was able to get 8 bags out of it. So I was pleased about that. My nose is running. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have a few acquisitions this week. While I was picking up the fabrics for those project bags, I also picked up a few others. So I got this combination. Let's see, I'll just hold them up. And if you watched before, you know that my daughter-in-law is a huge fan of mermaids, and so I bought this with the intention of making her a project bag as a gift to go along with her socks. And I also have some mermaid themed stitch markers that I'll add in. This will be for her birthday at the end of December, so I'm definitely planning ahead. But there should be, well, there will be some fabric left over. I can probably whip up a couple more bags that I can maybe use as prizes also. I thought that was really fun fabric. I bought this one with my daughter in mind. She loves the forest. She loves foxes and squirrels and all those things. So I thought that was really pretty. I paired it up with this. She doesn't usually watch, and well, Jess, if you watch, you won't be surprised. So maybe birthday or Christmas. And then I found this combination. I thought that looked really nice. Love sunflowers. And then this one was just really beautiful. I'm actually going to open it up because it's so pretty. This looks like a garden. And then I wasn't sure what color. I was trying to pick up a green. I didn't have one that matched, but then that blue matched that blue flower really well. So yeah, just you know, it's another rabbit hole. You can really fall down. There are so many gorgeous fabrics out there. Oh, I could have stayed in that shop forever. I also fell down and bought some yarn. So I guess I didn't mention, we were at Granville Island in Vancouver on Thursday. And last time we were there, I went into the Fiber Arts Studio, and there's a lot of, there's some yarn in there for knitting and weaving. There are various weaving projects that are made up and for sale. And the last time I was there, I asked somebody about some yarn that had been used in one of the woven scarves that was for sale, but she didn't really know anything about it. And so I really wanted to go back and see if there was someone there who I could talk to about weaving and such. So I went in, and my eye was immediately caught by a different woven scarf. And as it turned out, it was the dyer that was there that day, and she had woven the scarf. And so she directed me to the yarns, and this is, her name is Yoriki Oki, and this is a Donegal tweed. This colorway is Blue Galaxy. This colorway is called Supernova. And this colorway is Andromeda. So the scarf was made up of these three in groupings on the warp, but also 2 other colors. So I think there were 5 altogether, but she didn't have the other ones in stock. And honestly, 3 is plenty. It will still give the same effect. So you can see that there are parts that have like a solid stretch and then a part with the color. And so throughout this scarf, there were parts that were very colorful, and then they would be alongside, you know, strands of black. It was just gorgeous. And she had woven it up. She suggested using a 15 dent reed, so that's 15 little threads per inch, which I don't have, so I'm actually ordering one. And then she had done the weft with some black lace weight, which I happen to have a skein of in my stash. And so because you're using such, well, 2 things. I guess because you're using such a tight threading for the warp, and then because you're using such a skinny yarn for the weft, the warp colors really show up. And so unlike my weaving project that I just show you, where you can see the warp and weft really working together and forming that plaid appearance, this you'll mainly see vertical stripes of or splashes of color. So hopefully mine turns out as nicely as hers. But I know I have not been buying yarn this year, other than I did get some for my birthday, but I just, you know, my whole point of the year of the stash was not to never buy yarn again, but it was to be more selective and not just be, you know, easily drawn to all the ooh shiny. Because if you're like me, you get emails daily from various yarn dyers and companies, and it's so easy to fall down. But these just, to me, it just was really something special. And so looking forward to weaving with those. And then I have kind of a funny little acquisition. I was in a thrift store, actually Cameron and I were there looking for things my mom was interested in a couple of weeks ago, can't remember, but I found this bag of yarn. I'll pull them out. There's 2 each of these ribbon yarns, which when I first started working at the yarn shop back in, I think it was 2004, 5, 2003, actually 2003. These were quite popular, and I had knit a couple of shawls and scarves out of this type of yarn, but I'm not really interested in doing that now. But I thought that they would be fun to put into weaving projects, just to add more color and texture. So they're like, we always called them railway yarns. I don't know what they're really called. But you can see they're like a ribbon yarn with 2 outer strands, and then you have these little colored bits in between them, and that's what changes color. Whoops. Oh, they're just sliding off here. Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, I just thought, oh, that might be fun to work into a woven scarf. So the price was right. It was $5.99 for all 4 balls. So I figured I couldn't go wrong there. $1.50 a ball. I know it cost a lot more than that when it was being sold. So let me just look at my notes here. I think that's it for all the crafty stuff. Yes, so we'll just tell you a little bit about what's been going on since we last spoke. Mother's Day happened. I hope all of you moms had a good Mother's Day. I was lucky enough to see all of my children on Mother's Day. They all dropped by at various times. The weather cooperated. We all sat outside on the patio, and they all overlapped, the whole family overlapped for about 15 or 20 minutes at one point. So that was really nice. I received some really nice gifts, including Cameron gave me these hummingbird earrings. Hopefully, there, I think you can see them there. He doesn't usually give me jewelry, so it was really a surprise, a nice surprise. And they're really light, and I like the way they catch the light. And you know me, I love my hummingbirds, which I still have not seen a hummingbird here yet this year, despite now having a number of different planters out and all the feeders are ready to go. Maybe it's just still too cold for them to come back, because it has not been very nice lately still. And then Matt and Stephanie, they had given their attendants and their parents these insulated cups for their at their wedding last year. The women got this style and the men got more like a coffee travel mug style. And they said they had one extra and said, oh, maybe you'd like it with some kind of knitting thing on it one day. And I said, yeah, that would be nice, and then kind of forgot about it. But that's what they did. They gave that to me, and it says, hopefully you can see that with the glare. Let me see. It says, don't talk to me, I'm counting. And then it has a yarn ball. Sorry, I don't think that's showing up very well if I do that. Anyway, they've heard it often enough over the years. So this will definitely be my podcast mug of choice from now on. And I'm just going to take a sip out of it. Hopefully my tea is not too hot still. It's still very hot. I left the little lid open, but it's still quite hot. Okay, let me see what else. Oh yeah, so the reason we were down in Vancouver, went to Granville Island, is we had kind of an unexpected what's the word I'm looking for? Not event. It'll come to me. I don't know, sorry, there's a word I'm searching for and it's not there. Anyway, we went down to Vancouver on Thursday. One of my sisters and her husband had purchased tickets for a concert prior to the pandemic, and it was supposed to be James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt. And then I guess with the pandemic, the dates got changed a couple of different times, and the lineup changed also. And so the final, when all was said and done, the final date was last Thursday, and it was James Taylor and Jackson Browne. So they had seen both of those artists before. In the meantime, another commitment came up for Thursday for my sister. And then my brother-in-law said what he really wanted to do was see Bonnie Raitt, because he hadn't seen her. So he wasn't really feeling it for seeing James Taylor and Jackson Browne again. So I think it was like Monday night or Tuesday. My sister just posted to our kind of family chat, oh, by the way, I keep forgetting to say we've got these tickets for Thursday night that we're not going to use. Is anyone interested? And it was like, sure, if nobody else does. And it didn't really work out for everyone else anyway. And so, yeah, so we ended up going down to this concert. So Cameron took half a day off and we went to Granville Island first, stocked up on tea again, and then, as I say, visited the quilt shop, the quilting fabric shop, and the shop where I bought the yarn. You know, we wandered around and looked at all sorts of things. Granville Island, there's so much to see. Unfortunately, it was absolutely pouring rain. We kind of drove into the rain as we headed into Vancouver. We hadn't worn jackets with hoods. We ended up buying an umbrella down on Granville Island for probably twice as much as we would have paid anywhere else. But that helped keep us dry, and we are grateful to have it. The wind was blowing and the rain was coming down. So we didn't spend as much time at Granville Island as we normally would, because it wasn't really conducive to walking around and seeing all the shops. So we ended up we went and parked for the concert quite early, and then we found a restaurant that we wanted to go to. We walked to it from where we parked the car, and then we just sat there till it was time to leave for the concert. So we just took our time, had a drink and some appies, and then some dinner, and we were warm and dry. And yeah, the concert itself was really good. Jackson Browne played first. James Taylor joined him for a couple songs, and then James Taylor, there's like an intermission while they switched up the stage. James Taylor played for a while, and then Jackson Browne joined him at the end for a few songs. So first concert we've been to in a while, definitely since pre-pandemic. It wasn't until after we had sort of gotten the tickets and realized, thought about going, and realized, wow, this is like the first really big event we've been to. So wasn't sure how I felt about being amongst thousands of people in close proximity. But we wore our masks and thought, it's the most we can do to try and keep safe. And here we are almost a week later, and we're both fine. So knock wood that we're not, didn't pick up anything from there. Speaking of which, unfortunately, our daughter and a couple of her family members have now come down with COVID. She figures she got it from work. They were fine over the weekend, but I think it was Monday, our son-in-law tested positive, then our youngest granddaughter yesterday. Our grandson's been not 100%, but so far not testing positive. But then Jess and the kids all suffer from allergies, and so a lot of the symptoms are similar. So we'll just see how that pans out. Our oldest granddaughter so far hasn't had any symptoms, and so we'll see. Unfortunately, it messed up their plans for this coming weekend. At one time, our entire family were going to be going up to the cabins, along with two of my sisters and their husbands, and then of course we'd pick up my mom in town and bring her out for the weekend. Unfortunately, our younger son and his girlfriend will not be coming after all, and then of course Jess and her family. So that's too bad. We went from a whole bunch to, I guess, 9 of us all together, but we will still have a fabulous weekend, I'm sure. Cameron and I and one brother-in-law and a cousin and his friend who had helped us with the water system last year, we all went up, gathered on Saturday at the cabin, and finally we're able to get the water going for the season. So last autumn, we have a spring that's just off our property line that we have water rights to, and what we did last fall is just replace the system we had for collecting the water with a more modern one, because the other was decades old. And so none of us were sure how that would fare over the winter, whether it would, just how it would do. As it turned out, that all worked fine. Just as usual, we ended up with some airlocks in the pipe that lead from the spring to our holding tank for our water. And once those were all kind of cleared out, water was flowing. It came in better than it ever has. Because of the new system, we have more water coming through the pipes and less kind of flowing out around them. You'd have to see it to know what I'm talking about, but as a result, we have better pressure and more water coming in at a time. And so the tank filled up very quickly. My cousin was just there for the day, so he got his cabin all set up, and then he and his friend left. My brother-in-law took off also, and then Cameron and I and my mom stayed, and we got water to both cabins that we have for our family. And yeah, just because it was flowing so fast, didn't take long at all. So we're all set up for this coming weekend and for the season. That's such a load off everybody's mind. It's always kind of the wild card when opening up in the spring. How will it all work? Because sometimes we have issues with the pipe that leads from the spring. Sometimes it breaks apart at its joining part. Sometimes it's joined in different places, and it's like start with a big pipe and work down to small to build up pressure, and sometimes those come apart. A lot of it lies in the creek as it comes to where we have our holding tank, because that's the best path, because it's the flow of gravity. It's all gravity fed, so it's an easy way to have it. You're running along. If the water's running in the creek, the water's running also obviously in the pipe. So anyway, all it was some airlocks. There was no issue with breakage or anything this year. So once they walked the line and got things cleared up, everything worked great. So sorry, long diatribe on that, but needless to say, we are happy to be able to start next weekend, or this coming weekend, with water. It's a lot easier than hauling it in. Let me see, what else do I have here? I think that's it. Yes, so yeah, just my something good for this week is this upcoming family time at the cabin. It's always fun when there's lots of us there, and we're opening up for the seasons, so there's always a bit of tidy up to do in the yard where, tree limbs or sometimes whole trees come down. This year we didn't notice any fallen trees, but we'll do some cleanup. The grass had it was very green up there, but just brand new grass, so unless it has grown a foot in the last few days, we won't have to do any grass cutting this weekend. Some springs, it's, like this long when we go up there for Victoria Day weekend. Other times, like this time, it's hardly existent. So that's nice. Be a nice, easy weekend. Just does a few jobs always, but not too bad. Okay, and so as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I've got one of my sisters and her husband's coming to stay with us next week. We're up there for Friday through Monday, and then they'll be here. I think they leave Wednesday or Thursday. In any case, I won't be recording next week, and so look for next episode the following week, and I think by then it'll probably be like June 1st or 2nd. So yeah, so just watch for one then. So I think between now and then, well, certainly if you're in Canada, you have the Victoria Day weekend, so have a good long weekend. And then I think it's Memorial Day weekend the following weekend for the United States. So I hope you enjoy your long weekend. I assume it's a long weekend. It usually is, isn't it? So enjoy that holiday weekend too. So to the rest of you, take care until I see you again. Thank you so much for watching as always, and thank you so much for all of your kind comments and notes and your participation in the Year of the Stash. I hope to see you again very soon. Take care till then. Bye now.